Hey guys, Scott Adams here again. So another thing I like to talk about with merchants that could help you, especially like during the holidays, is calculating your chargeback rate and then an additional kind of chargeback rate to look at that's kind of different than what the card brands use. So, most of you guys know when, say, for example, Visa calculates your chargeback rate, they look at the number of chargebacks that were reported in a given month divided by the transactions in that same month. So, you have your, like we talked about, you have your sales spike in December, tons more sales in many months. Then in January, things die down a lot, often with your lower months. And so when you do that math, you end up with a lot of chargebacks from December, or from transactions from December having chargebacks in January. So when you do the math, you end up with a much higher chargeback ratio than you really have. So, and that's good to know, and that's how they calculate it, so you need to know that number. But another number I think is really important is your chargeback rate, but based on the transaction date. So instead of doing the math the card brand way, do it this way. So look at the chargebacks that came in on transactions in a given month divided by the transactions from that same month as the chargebacks. So, if you had in this case, you had sales in December, and yeah, you got the chargebacks in January, but let's call that December instead of January. So divide the number of chargebacks you got on transactions from December divided by the number of transactions in December. And so this gives you maybe a better idea of where the problem is. So, it might have just been your sales spike. So, if you do this math in January and you say, Visa is saying you have a 3% chargeback rate, but then if you do the math like I just suggested, and you have, 0.02% chargeback rate, you really don't have a problem. Most likely it's just because of the time. And, keep an eye on it, but you probably don't have to do anything or much. That's still a warning period if it's your first month. So if that was your first time to get this notice, say it's just a warning around, that you could be going into the program. So be careful about how you read those notices you get. And if that's what it is, you probably don't have to do anything. Now, if you're unlucky here and you had some previous months, a few months back, you got into the programs, then there's not a lot you can do either. Because now, maybe if you've already fixed your problem, but you still have the sales spike that caused the problem, then there's not a lot you can do. But this is something I suggest you start doing now. Do it going back a few months, and then keep an eye on that. Now, I'll add another thing in here too, is that something I like to do is make sure to also know that your general chargeback lag time. So to calculate this, you want to look at the chargeback date, so when you receive the chargeback, and subtract the transaction date and see how many days are there. And this will also give you an idea, because maybe if your chargeback cycle is super short on average, then you're less likely to get this kind of problem with like a December, January issue. So look at these different numbers. Not everybody thinks to calculate these, and I've found them really useful in the past, because you can also maybe throughout the year you run these, and your chargebacks go up. You're not sure why, and you can't look at that current month. You need to look at when the transaction came in. Maybe your customer service had issues. Maybe you're really, really behind. Maybe you had server problems. So you might be able to pinpoint some dates and some other reasons that you hadn't thought about before. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.